Age is back. Tell a friend. Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Let's get into it, guys. What's up, everybody? This is Age, and we are back with another Guild Wars 2 video. Now, today I'll be going over the Deadeye rework that took place this month. But first, I need to talk about a few things, so just indulge me for a minute, if you will. Now, there was a part 2 of my 12th vlog that was supposed to come out shortly after part 1, which never did, so I'm sorry about that. I have to update it a little bit later and release it a bit later. But basically, the TLDR of it was that I would be more focused on Twitch than YouTube, because I honestly don't like the direction YouTube is going for content creators, especially in the gaming sphere. However, I didn't want to leave you guys, my YouTube subscribers, high and dry, so I'd still make the occasional video, like around once or twice a month, and just not every week. So I haven't been doing well on that either. So since it's been quite a while since I've made a video, I just wanted you guys to know that I haven't quit Guild Wars 2 at all. I did take a break from Guild Wars 2 earlier this year, but that honestly meant I just logged in for dailies or help break groups out if they needed a person. So technically I was still playing the game, but yeah, I'm still playing the game. That's basically what I want to get across here. In fact, I actually made Astralaria this week, so that gives you any indication. Basically, if I ever quit the game, which is highly unlikely, maybe unless Guild Wars 3 comes out, I'll make a video about it. Okay, so now on to what you really came here for, Deadeye Rework. So this rework aimed at solving three main things: Malice complexity, rifle flexibility, and trait synergies. I'm gonna say Renate got it half right. So let's start off with Malice. Now, Deadeye's old Malice stacking was done over time and stacked faster if you attacked. Each stack gave you 3% damage. You could continue applying mark on the same target to retain stacks, or choose a new target and reset your Malice stacks. Now, there were a few problems with this, because if you kept retaining your stacks, you would only proc Perfectionist, aka the minor Grandmaster trait that gives you all the boons, the first time, due to it only procking when you get max stacks. Now, if you let your mark reset in order to gain Perfectionist procs, your damage would be constantly fluctuating, since it's all done via the stack, how many Malice stacks you have. Essentially, you have little control of how you manage your Malice outside of keeping your stacks. So that means you had little control over all the damage amplifiers that you had. Now, the new Malice stacking is done via 1 Malice per skill attack, and an additional stack if the skill crits at any point. If traded, your heal and your Deadeye mark skill will each generate 1 Malice as well. The damage modifier is removed from the Malice stacks, but when you use a stealth attack, you lose all of your current stacks, and for each stack loss, you gain an incremental bonus effect on your stealth attack. So for instance, Dagger's stealth attack is backstab, and that does, considerable amount of damage, and for each stack of Malice you'll do additional bonus damage. And on a Marauder's setup, regularly you can get a 3.5k backstab non-crit to 7.5k, which is a crit, around those benchmark numbers. Now, with bonus from Malice stacks, you can get around 7k non-crit and around 13k crit with 7 Malice stacks. That is impressive. Now, overall, I think this is a good change. You have to be proactive in order to gain Malice stacks. You are also in control of when you want to use your stacks, because if you use your stealth attack, you're going to lose all your stacks, basically. So you want to time those things right. There's also counterplay versus the Deadeye as well. Now, players get a better idea of when a Deadeye will try to use a stealth attack, and how potent it will be based on how much the Deadeye attacked beforehand. So, for example, old Deadeye would have to pop Deadeye mark on you, and then it could stay in stealth forever until the mark actually fills up, and then just use Death's Judgment on you and hit you for a huge amount of damage. Whereas now, in order to get that big damage on Death's Judgment, you have to actually gain those Malice stacks first and then pop Death's Judgment. I think it's good. Now, utilities have been slightly changed due to the Malice stacking being different as well. Utilities that had bonuses based on the number of Malice stacks simply have a bonus effect versus a marked target. Now, for example, Malicious Restoration, which is the heal, did a bonus heal and cleanse a condition per stack. Now it has a stronger base heal, and if you have a marked target, it transfers 3 conditions you have to that target. Shadow Flare, which is one of the utilities, did extra damage to your marked target that scaled on your Malice stacks. That damage scaled on your Malice stacks, but now it does just a simple 50% extra bonus damage to your marked target. Overall, this just simplifies the bonus effects of your cantrip bonuses on marked targets, which is, pretty good. So Malice stacking and utility changes were pretty solid in my opinion in terms of solving the issue of Malice complexity. And then we get to Rifle. So Rifle, in a word, is just clunky. Now, Death's Judgment is now a stealth attack. It's unblockable, which is pretty nice. All standing skills are the same with the exception of Kneel, which doesn't have stacks and basically acts as a regular skill now. When you kneel, all the skills are the same with the exception of the free action, which lost its movement Condi cleanse, so cripple, chill, and immobilize. You can't cleanse those anymore with free action. And Death's Judgment slot is now Sniper's Cover, basically the 4 skill when kneeling, and that basically places a small smoke screen for like 5 seconds that blocks projectiles. Now it's important to note that the trait Silent Scope applies stealth when you dodge for 10 seconds, but the cooldown resets when you kneel. This is actually very important when I'm talking about Rifle. Now, I can see the idea behind the changes facilitating a more max range sniper-esque mentality. I think this is what ArenaNet's trying to go for, but when people close the gap, it just leads to problems. Now, as you can see, the number of changes are small for the most part, but have a big impact. Now, ironically, ArenaNet fixed the complexity with Malice, but added complexity to Rifle, which does not make it flexible, which was the goal to fix Rifle, but it just puts it in a harder spot to use. Now, Silent Scope is just plain awful when it comes to Rifle stealth now. Expending dodge to stealth is just a terrible mechanic in general, as dodge is a survival mechanic, but you need a decent amount of stealth to be effective on Rifle, which is why Kneel for stealth was so good in the first place. It allowed you to stealth up and relocate appropriately and do damage from range, and then you were able to disengage via a quick kneel or just break away with a utility skill. So you should dodge to dodge, and I guess the mentality there is that you dodge for the sake of dodging, and if you get stealth, great, but it doesn't help because you actually need, like I said, you just need the stealth on Rifle. And this piles onto the fact that you have to keep note of when you activated your stealth, how much time you have left on the cooldown. If you can kneel to reset, then dodge, which is ironic because you can dodge too early and break kneel and you're still visible. And then we have Sniper's Cover, which, yes, I know it's Smoke Field, and you can combine that with Death's Retreat for stealth, but that's also not very practical because you have to kneel, put down the cover, kneel again, pop out Death's Retreat. Like, it's a lot of things to go through your head, and Sniper's Cover only covers one side of you, so if you don't, and even if if you don't have instant cast, you have to actually place it first. So all these things gives you a brief window to do one or two skills. Sniper's Cover actually gives you a brief window of performing one or two skills where you have to place another one or actually move, and it's a lot of things to keep in mind. And you also have to get the benefits of your Malice stacks before they expire, kite if people get too close, while keeping all the regular stuff in mind, such as cooldowns, and also doing enough damage to get to a point where you can actually take down a target. And as we all know, Rifle doesn't have a tremendous amount of damage outside of Death's Judgment, of hitting with Death's Judgment. So it's a lot of complex micromanagement added on. Now, Death's Judgment being a stealth attack, I don't have a huge issue with this, since the previous stealth attack was terrible, but it does impact PvE. So the Deadeye Rifle rotation for raids can't use Death's Judgment as effectively anymore due to needing enough stealth to perform the rotation. And if you swap your rotation for other utilities, you're actually losing damage or some unique stack bonus that helps you. So you're better off using Double Dagger Deadeye instead for raiding. Of course, open world PvE Rifle is okay in most respects, but you do have a damage loss. So in order to help Rifle out, I think most of the benefits is rolled into like all the micro work. So I think if you reduce the micro work needed, it would be a lot better. So for example, having the stealth back on Neil would be a lot more beneficial. Maybe some people have complaints about that, but it allows you to a lot less micromanagement. You don't have to expend your dodges for stealth if you need to. Again, you probably shouldn't expend your dodges to stealth, but dodge to dodge and get the benefits of stealth if it happens. Again, that's anyway. The other thing you could do is roll in sniper's cover into Neil, so that when you kneel, it actually applies the sniper's cover automatically. Or if you want, just put sniper's cover, make it a little bit better by making it an AoE circle that blocks for a certain amount of time. And if people want to spam it, sure, but you will not have enough initiative to do other actions. That I think would be very interesting. So there's a lot of things I think Arena could do in that case to make it a lot clunky. Just remove a lot of the micro that is involved in rifle skills and of themselves, because the difference between kneeling and standing is already micromanagement already that a lot of people can handle. But I think adding on to the complexity of that is just a bit too much. It should be just a one press type of thing. So overall, instead of giving rifle more flexibility, it's pigeonholed further as a niche pick. The best places for rifle right now is open world PvE and to an extent Havoc groups and Zergs, since you can potentially position so you aren't the priority target right away. But as we all know, these aren't the priority pick when entering a Zerg group. But anyway, now how about traits? Well, let's start with minors. Renewing Gaze hasn't changed. It resets your marking grants regen on takedown still. However, Iron Sights is now the new Grandmaster minor that's swapped out with Perfectionist, and we'll talk about Perfectionist in a little bit. That and Iron Sights grants a damage boost to a marked target and damage reduction from a marked target, which is pretty good to have as a base trait that you always have when you're playing Deadeye. Now let's go through each of the other major traits, and we're going to go from top to bottom. So the top line is the sniper line. So the first one is Malicious Intent. That got changed to give a stack of Malice when you mark a target or use a heal. So it's not terrible, as it passively helps ramp up time for gaining Malice stacks. Silent Scope, as I said earlier, applies stealth on dodge instead of kneel and resets the stealth cooldown if you kneel. And it also still adds the crit chance on rifle and Death's Judgment now. Maleficent 7's heal and faster Malice ramp up is gone. Instead, Perfectionist was rolled into this trait, granting a ton of boons, as it did before, at the max Malice stacks, and it also gives you a large amount of initiative as well. I believe it's 7, in addition to increasing your Malice cap to 7. I've voiced my opinion on Silent Scope already, so I'm not going to repeat myself, but I think Maleficent 7 is pretty much the go-to Grandmaster trait now if you're not doing boon share. I think it straight up beats out Be Quick or Be Killed. Now, the second line, which is the middle line, is what I like to call the PvE AoE mob clear line. I know that's kind of a mouthful, but that's what I'm calling it. Now, the first trait here is collateral damage. It makes your target explode via bomb shadows, burst shadows, I forgot what it's called. It makes your target explode and applies blinding in an area when that target is taken down. Payback is the master trait. It recharges the right side of your skill bar by a certain percentage when you reset Deadeye's mark via takedown. So that's your heal, your utilities, your elite, and you get a percentage recharge on those, which is pretty nice actually if used pretty well. Now, Be Quick or Be Killed has not changed. It grants quickness on a marked and extra power and precision when you have quickness. Now, overall, this setup is mainly for PvE due to the ability to constantly proc collateral damage. It's hard to use this setup in World vs. World Zergs, I imagine, due to how fast you need to mark targets. It also allows you to use rifle in an AoE fashion, but I think short bow will be a nice way to go for this setup. I'm mostly in PvE. I'm going to try this in World vs. World, I think. It could be... I don't think it's going to be horribly effective, but it might be fun to try out. And anyway, last but not least is the boon share line. Now, one in the chamber is pretty much the same. You know, When you use a cantrip, you gain a stolen skill. Fire for effect is the same, but it has the added benefit of applying fury. Premeditation is the new master trait in the line. This is the bottom line, I should say, by the way. Boon share line, and it gives you concentration and extra damage per boon you have. Now, I haven't tested boon share just yet, but it could just be nice for open world PvE to provide that extra boon support. It could probably work for World vs. World and raids, but other professions cover boon sharing pretty well already. So, yeah, that feels bad. But overall, I think the traits are okay. Collateral damage works well with payback and renewing gaze, although its effectiveness at mob clearing might be questionable. I still have to do a lot more testing on that. In solo cases, Maleficent 7 beats out Be Quicker Be Killed in my opinion. In party cases, when you want to share boons, Fire for Effect wins out. Now, what I like about the master traits in general in that middle line is that if you're using rifle, you use Silent Scope. But if you're not, and not mob clearing with payback, you can use Premeditation in pretty much every other scenario, and it would be a solid pick. I know that was a little bit of an issue when it came to those trait picks. So there is better synergy overall with the new Deadeye traits, but there are some traits that need testing for effectiveness, such as the collateral damage plus payback in PvE, and more importantly, World vs. World. I highly doubt it'll work, but I'm still gonna try it. Silent Scope needs to be looked at again because I don't feel the dodge on stealth is a good way to go. And finally, Be Quicker Be Killed needs to be a bit better to compete with Maleficent 7 because again, I think Maleficent 7 just wins out now. So those are my thoughts on the Deadeye rework. What do you guys think? Love it? Hate it? It's okay, but still needs work. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. This has been Age. Thanks for watching. Be kind to one another. Be good to one another. And I'll catch you next time. Peace.